So the first thing we're going to do is kind of switch our project over. We're not going to create layers because right now, because we're creating a 3D model that's going to be on layer 0 for now. And we're looking at the top view. So if you look over here at the top left corner of your screen, you should see two words there. One is top and one is 2D wireframe. So let's go ahead and click on top at, at the top left corner of your screen. And you see how it says there's a check mark in front of top? So we're going to go down to SE isometric, which is southeast isometric, and click that. You see how the whole view kind of rotates over. And if you now look at this view cube, you can see that you are at the southeast view looking towards this, cube. You can see that there's a little compass down there. And we could have clicked on that bottom right corner of this view cube as well using the cube. So looking at this XYZ, you can see now that we've been looking down right on Z at the XY plane. All right, and so also, if we create some kind of solid model, we are looking at the visual style called 2D wireframe. So you'd be able to see right through it. So what we want to do is look at it as a solid shape. There are a lot of different ways you can look at it, the same model, but we're going to go to here, click on 2D wireframe here at the top left of your screen, and then click on conceptual. The only thing it does is it slightly changes the XYZ here to be more colorful, right? But we're going to take a look at what it does when we create solid shapes. Also, the ribbon is completely all 2D. So this is where we have to go. Well, there's a couple of other ways of doing this, but at the bottom right corner of the screen, you'll see this little gear icon. And next to that is an arrow, a little arrow. Click on that little arrow. And you'll see that we've been working with the drafting and annotation screen or workspace, it's called. And we want to look at the 3D modeling. So this is a workspace that you can actually save. So you can set up your workspace and customize it the way that you want it. So there's a lot of customizing going on with AutoCAD, where you can take menus out and add menus. It's usually in an advanced class, but maybe towards the end of the semester, I'll show you a few things that you can do to customize your screen. So we're going to go ahead and click on 3D modeling. So once you customize your screen, you can pick to save it, and then the next time you come back to it, you can get back to it. This is mostly, I'm thinking mostly for people that work in an office where more than one person works with that computer. Let's go to 3D modeling. And so now we're in the 3D modeling ribbon, and you can see it changed, but you don't have to go back. Guys, this is important. You don't have to go back to the drafting and annotation because there are all of our draw tools and our modify tools right there in the ribbon, and we also have layers over here. So there are only a couple of things that we would need to go to a different tab for. Like when we start dimensioning, we'll use annotate. But let's get started with having a little bit of fun with these solids. So at the top left corner, you'll see that little box icon. And underneath that, you'll see the box, cylinder, all these different things. So just click on box. We're just going to click a point anywhere. Look at, you see your command line? Just watch your command line as you're doing this. You're going to click a point for your first corner, pull your mouse over and click another point for your other corner, and then pull your mouse up for the height. And there it is. But by listening and looking at your command line, you can type in the height as well. So there's one. Let's go ahead and create one of all of these. So a cylinder asks you for a center point, a radius, and then a height. So 3 different clicks, but looking at your command line, you can see that these are created specific ways. So a cone, you can even just rest your pointer there and it'll show you a little image of the 3 clicks. So click for a base radius. I'm looking at the command line, and then the diameter of it, and pull your mouse up and click. So this is kind of fun. There's a sphere. A sphere is a radius and a diameter, pretty simple. Pyramid has a box, and then like coming up in the middle there, a wedge is really a rectangle, and then which side of the wedge you want to go up on. And a torus, I've used this a few times where you click a center point and a radius, and then you decide on the radius of that torus. It's kind of cool. So those are some of those um, presets or primitives they're called that you can work with. Kind of cool. Yeah. Let's zoom down to your box there. You can draw another one or use this one here. So when we draw a circle, let's go over to the draw panel and find that circle icon right there, the one we've been using. Circle center radius is fine, and click on that. And then outside of this box, in the like open space, click a point. You see here, if you pull your mouse out here and click, you're actually drawing on the XY plane. So here's something that I do all of the time. If you hold your shift key down, try this out, hold your shift key down and hold the wheel of the mouse and then move your mouse around. What you're doing is you're orbiting around to see your project in different views. And then when you let go, you are in a different view. And that's why it's called a custom view instead of a top view. So you can roll the wheel up and down as we have been for zooming. You can still hold the wheel down to pan. But now if you hold the shift key and the wheel of the mouse, you can orbit around to see that there is this kind of XY plane that this circle is going on. So that's the default out in space to draw on that XY plane. Now, if you don't have a wheel of your mouse, we do have these navigation tools that I told you about when we were working with 2D. This one is a full navigation wheel right there. And if you don't have your wheel on your mouse and you're working with your laptop, you can still grab this full navigational wheel. And you've got some other things, so be careful how you know how much you're using of these other ones because you're walking and panning. But if you hold your left mouse button down on orbit, this brings you this pivot point, and you can kind of orbit around that way too. And zoom and pan, you're holding your left mouse button down and moving your mouse. So this is when you don't have the wheel of your mouse and you're using your laptop and you want to orbit. That's one way. Rewind is kind of cool because it gives you little images of where you've been for rewinding just the view. So you see I'm rewinding the view back to where I am. I don't use that very often, seriously. And these other commands inside I don't use until I create more images. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. Some people like to use the cube right here. So if I went back to the view cube and I clicked right on top, so I'm going to, you see all those little blue images? I'm going to get that little box there, top, and click. See how it brings me back to the top view? And notice when you have your pointer on this view cube, you have these little arrows that help you to rotate this view if you wanted to in the top view. But if you now want to go back and you see how this changed to top right there? So it's going to the same. If you wanted to go back to the southeast isometric view, you could click right on that little blue box at the bottom right corner of where it says top on the cube and you go back to it. All right, so these are the different ways that you can zoom around in your drawing. Yeah, that'll give you, and double click on the wheel. That's right, I forgot to show you that. We've been doing this in 2D, but if you double click on the wheel, it will bring you back. Now, if you get kind of lost in space there, you're not sure where you're at the top or the bottom, because it does get like that, you can always come back over here and at the top left of your screen, go through and pick up, make sure you're right on something like the southeast isometric so that you're there. Okay. So we drew this circle and it's on this XY plane. Now let's go back and draw another circle. So find the draw panel and click on circle. This time, see what happens when you put it on one of the faces of your box? The face becomes kind of the XY plane. You see how that little image of the blue, green, and yellow lines kind of rotates temporarily. So now if I go to the top face of this box, it's blue. I know it's active. See how this one would be active if I'm over here. And I click and I pull my mouse away from that and I click. I've got now the circle on top of the box. Everybody see that? It's not on the plane now, it's on top of the box. And so if I want to go back to circle, I could come over here and put it on the end of the box right there. I'm going to click a point, pull my mouse out and click. And so this is really great. They've really come a long way with 3D modeling. we didn't used to be able to do that. We had to move this UCS icon, this XYZ all around, but now it happens instantly, which is really kind of cool. All right. So because of that, also you can draw on a surface. So as long as the surface is active before you click. So let's, first of all, I want to make sure that we have our midpoint object snap checked. So while we're working with the 3D views, the 3D commands, we're going to also be drawing 2D. We'll go back to the 2D drawings, a couple of them, and make them 3D. So let's also know that you're going to use the things that we've been working on this semester. So down at the bottom right corner, go to your object snaps and make sure your midpoint is checked. Now, look in the draw panel up here. You'll see the line command right there. You can type in L for line as well and enter. But here's the line command. And now this is the tricky part. You have to make sure that the face that you're drawing on is blue and active first. Now, you can go close to the midpoint and see that little triangle, and you have the blue face, right? And click. I'm going to come over here to this midpoint and click, and then enter, or right click and enter. So you can draw on the surface of your solid models. And one of the big reasons why you would want to do that is to use one of my favorite commands. It's called press pull. I love it. Up here at the top left corner, there's the command, not extrude. It's a smaller icon. They really should make press pull a bigger icon. It's a smaller blue icon at the top left. Let's click on press pull. Now with press pull, you can go right inside the circle on the top surface, not on the circle edge itself, but inside the circle and right here and click. Now, if you pull your mouse away from the other solids, it will create another solid that unions automatically puts these two together as one piece. But if you pull your mouse all the way down inside the solid model, all the way down to the bottom, and then click, you see how it makes a hole? So I'm going to hold my shift key and the wheel of my mouse. I'm going to look in this hole. Look at that. So press pull will help you to kind of reshape your model. And that for that reason, I have this little triangle here. So I'm going to put my pointer, I'm still in press pull. You can see it on the command line. I'm going to put my pointer right here in this triangle and click inside of it. You see how I could create an extension of that? Or I could pull it all the way back and click and kind of slice that out. Slice that out. I mean, some people will use that for the chamfers instead of using the 3D chamfer that we have as a command. All right, let's do the same thing with this little circle and just a little bit more practice. It's inside the circle. Go inside the circle and click, pull your mouse back and click, and now you're kind of reshaping your project. I'm going to press the escape key to get rid of that press pull and take a look. See that? It's kind of cool. Now, one thing I'd like you to notice is that the 2D geometry does stay. When we use extrude, which is very similar, it's going to take away and kind of delete out the 2D geometry. And the reason for knowing this is that you may be working with a 3D solid that has 2D geometry and you're trying to figure out why it's not working. Well, you might be clicking on the 2D geometry instead of the solid model. So sometimes I'll just go in here and delete some of the 2D geometry. Like this one's obvious. You can just click on it and pick erase. Hey, we're just having fun with this, so it doesn't have to be exactly like mine. When you submit this towards the end, I just want to see that you kind of played around with it and you kind of understand that we have, these options. So let's make sure you have a circle out here. In fact, why don't you go ahead and draw a rectangle as well, and we'll take a look at extrude. So under the draw panel, click on rectangle right there. Click a point, pull your mouse over and click another point. Now, if we are going to look at loft and revolve and sweep, but today I just want to give you an introduction to 3D solids and then also get started with an assignment. So we're going to go ahead and click on extrude right here. Now, this time's a little different because extrude asks you to select the object to extrude. So I'm going to click on this circle, let's say, and then I'm going to press enter. And look at the options. Some of the options are to extrude along a path or to taper the angle. So if you were doing like some kind of um, tapered angle here, you could change it, but it does ask you to specify the height. So I'm going to pull my mouse up and click. Now the difference here is that when I move this over, you see how like the 2D geometry is taken away. So let's do it again with this rectangle. Start the extrude command, select the rectangle, enter it. This time, if we want to do something a little different, let's click on tapered angle. You see how the tapered angle is starting to taper? It's tapering down because that's the direction we were going. So you could go ahead and find something that looks kind of cool and click. Oh, that's the angle. So we clicked for the angle, and now we can pull our mouse up or down and click for the height. So it's tapering up at a specific angle. Now we're going to be working with a lot of other commands. I think I'd just like to introduce a couple more, like 3D rotate. So let's draw another box. Go up to the top left here, click on box, and just draw another box out here. Click, click, click. A rectangle. Let's take a look at 3D rotate. 3D rotate is going to help you to rotate it along an axis. And there are a couple of points there you want to watch out for because we might draw something in 2D and then 3D and then use press pull to give it height, and then we may have to rotate it to put it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and click on 3D rotate. Your command line says select objects. I'm going to select this solid model and then I'm going to enter it. Now this is the part where people miss. It says specify a base point. So we want a base point of where we want the rotation. So click that bottom corner somewhere, and you'll see that that kind of rotation rings go there. And now it's asking you to pick the rotation axis. So instead of asking you what the X, Y, or Z plane that you want to rotate it around, it's asking you to find that axis on that ring, which I'm going to go ahead and click on this red ring. You see how it gives me that X axis? But I'm going to click. Now at this point, if you look at your command line, a choice is to type in the angle. So if we type in 90 and enter, it's going to rotate 90 degrees around that axis that we selected. So let me show you here how you can rotate something at your own axis. Because sometimes we draw something, we want to rotate it into place, into another part. So let's use that again. But this time we're not going to type in a number for the rotation angle. We're going to be able to rotate it dynamically. So let's go ahead and start the 3D rotate, select the box, enter it, click a base point, and then maybe we should try something different. Let's go to the rotation axis that shows this blue line, which would be the Z direction, and click. But now, instead of typing in an angle, I'm going to pull my mouse here to along this axis right here to establish an angle that I want to start at right there. I'm going to click, and you see how it's letting me decide dynamically on which angle. Now I can still type in the angle if I knew exactly how far I wanted to, rotate it. And if you pick some other corner, that's okay. As long as you can see that you can select the axis to rotate around, and you can either type in the angle or you can dynamically just pull your mouse around and kind of like snap to another part, right? Because you need it to rotate to that one. So I'm just going to go over here and click. All right. Now there are other commands. If you just rest your pointer on some of these modify tools and right here in the modify panel. This one here is a 3D mirror. So if you look at the image, it's like the 2D mirror, but the biggest difference is that you're clicking 3 points that establish the surface, like the plane that you're going to mirror around. And instead of 2 points like we did in 2D geometry. And then this one is kind of cool. The 3D aligned, you can align points. So you're selecting the object and then you're picking the points on the object that you want to align, like C2, 3, 4. And then you're picking the other points where you want to put it, 5, 6, 7. It's a little different. We used to have to pick like 2 and 5 and 3 and 6 and 4 and 7, but it takes a part and aligns it with another one, making it a little bit easier to work with. There's 3D move, but there are other ways of moving objects. Let me show you that one. Um, so if you click on, let's just say this original box, any one of these really. If you click on one of these objects, you'll see that there's um, these huge arrows that are blue, green, and red. If I click on the blue arrow right there and I pull my mouse up, see what I'm doing is I'm actually moving it in the Z direction. So you see how if I orbit around it, I'm giving it a different I'm moving it honestly, just like that 3D move. I'm moving it up in that direction and I can type in how far I want it to go. So I'm gonna move it up and click, right? And now maybe I want to, move it over. So I'm going to click the green arrow, bring it over here and move it over. Now, if you have you see how when you have something selected like that and you orbit, everything else turns off. So that's kind of helpful when you want to clear space. But you'll have to use the escape key to get that unselected so that you can orbit the whole thing. All right, cool. This is kind of fun. I always like this part. The 3D modeling is it opens up a huge other part of CAD to create these shapes. Well, if I click on this cylinder or some of the original drawings, you'll also get those little blue grips, the little triangular blue grips that you can click on to, change the height or even change by using these grips the diameter. So you've got the little grips to change the object itself, and you've got these bigger arrows to move it in a different direction. All right, so that's an introduction. Okay, so now somewhere in space, it doesn't matter where, we're going to start our project. In fact, we're going to go outside of this so that I can introduce layout paper space to you a little bit later. Okay, let me open up that file. I think I have it here. There it is. I use this one a lot because it helps us to see that we can draw this box and use press pull, and we can draw circles and use press pull. And I'm going to show you how to use the fillet command to get these little curves here. We're going to draw this little circle and then press pull to get the hole in, and then go from there. Okay. I think it might be a good idea to go back to the top view and just draw that box. So let's go to the top left corner here, pick custom view and click on top. I mean, you could have used this view cube as well. Roll your or pan over a little bit so that you're you don't want to be within all of this stuff going on. And over here someplace, let's draw a box that's, if you take a look at the drawing, it's the original box is 5 right there by 2, 5 by 2. Why not use regular lines? So start the line command, click a point, pull your mouse to the right, type in 5 and enter. Pull your mouse straight up, type in 2 and enter. To the left, 5 and enter, and then type in C for close and enter. We should all know how to do that by now. Some of you are like, why doesn't she draw a rectangle? I'm just going to draw a rectangle. Or you might use tracking. The end result is that you have a rectangle that's 5 by 2, and you're in the top view. Okay, now we're going to go back over at the top left to change our view to southeast isometric. Why am I using southeast isometric? I don't know. That's just my preference is to work in that view. Some people might go to the southwest, any of the other 3D views. So now we have this 2D geometry that's a rectangle that's 5 by 2. And now we know we can use press pull. So let's go over to modeling and look for that little blue icon right there. Click on press pull and then go inside that rectangle and kind of wait for it to read it. Now you're not clicking on the rectangle, you're clicking inside. Click right there. Now pull your mouse up and type in, you see how high it is? It's 2.5. 2.5 and enter. That's it. And then either enter again or escape out of that. This is our box that is exactly 5 by 2 by with a height of 2.5. Okay, so we use press pull to go inside that rectangle and click and then pull your mouse up and type in this height right there. Let me just get a little closer to it. Oops, wrong way. 2.5 right there. Now we're going to take what we learned and we're going to draw these circles on that front face. This is tough because we need to make sure, first of all, our midpoint object snap is on, which we did that. And we want to make sure that this front face is highlighted before we click. So if we have a radius, let's do the small one. We have a radius of 1. So let's go up to the draw panel right here and go to circle center radius. Now, make sure that that front face is blue. Come close to the triangle midpoint right there and click. You see how it's on the face of it? And now you can type in 1 and enter. So we have a 1-inch circle on that front face. And let's do it again for the 1.5. So you can right click and start the command again, but circle center radius, same face, highlight this face, go close to that midpoint and click, and then type in 1.5 and enter. Now, if I orbit around, if I hold my shift key and my wheel of my mouse, you see how I can see that it's 2D geometry that's on that surface? Now, press pull, you can't be right on top of it like that. You have to be at some kind of angle for it to recognize which spot you want to extrude using press pull, right? So you can see right here, we're going to extrude out here with press pull, this bottom kind of smile face right there. So let's start press pull. Go inside that space that's between the two circles at the bottom. You can see my screen is showing you it's kind of like a big arc, upside down smile face. Click. Pull your mouse out and type in 1 and enter. 1, because over here we have the box is 2 and this whole thing is 4. So I should put another dimension in there. It's 1 coming out. Okay, go ahead and escape or press enter again to get out of that. So this is what we have so far. We're going to go to the other side and do that same thing. So hold the shift key down and the wheel of the mouse and kind of orbit over to the other side. Now, you can draw those 2 circles again, or you can copy these 2 over to it. I think because we're just starting out and we've already done the copy command a few times, let's make it easy, simple, and draw it. But just know that I could copy. I'll just show it to you. I'm going to start the copy command, select these 2 circles and enter. I can click this midpoint and this midpoint, and it copies it from one side to the other. So, oops, wrong one. So it's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and draw it again right here. Make sure this face is highlighted. Click on the midpoint. Type in 1 and enter. You can right click to repeat the circle because you know it's going to default back to radius. Come make sure that this is highlighted. Click the midpoint, 1.5 and enter. Same thing. Go to press pull. Click here at the bottom. Pull it out here and type in 1 and enter. Okay, so that's what we did to get that. Now, because we still have to get this centerpiece out, we're going to use press pull. We're already in press pull. So it's up to you if you went out of it and back into it. Sometimes you can't see what you're clicking on, but you have to go just do it. Like it doesn't highlight correctly. Like in this case, it's highlighting the top surface. But I know that if I click this inside kind of half circle right there, you see how it grabbed it? So instead of pulling it out, I'm going to pull it back to kind of like cut it out. So I'm going to go here and click. Now I was able to use press pull to get that out. Now guys, I'm clicking inside the space, not on the edges. Remember that. All right. How are we doing, guys? I'm going to use my escape key to get out of that. We drew the circles on the sides. We used press pull to pull out and extrude those circles, bottom parts of those, the area between the circles. And then we use press pull to kind of grab this and pull this out. Now we don't need these circles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to orbit over like right about there so I can kind of grab all of that geometry. I hold my shift key and my wheel of my mouse and orbit around. And now I'm going to click in space and let go and pull my mouse across these circles. And then at that point, you can either click the erase icon or the delete key on the keyboard, or some people I notice are right clicking and picking erase. All right, hey, we got the beginning. And you know, if you're orbit around and you're feeling like it's kind of awkward, click on the object. If you click on the object before you orbit, it kind of zeroes in on and gives you a better control over the orbit. All right, use your escape key to get rid of that if you, so that nothing's selected. So let's take a look at the fillet. Now, I know that they have this 3D fillet, but we can use the 2D fillet to fillet that inner radius as well. It's a fillet radius of 0.25, and it's that little line between the box and this curve right there. So in the modify panel, you'll find fillet. It's just right there underneath trim. Start the fillet command, and then go right to this edge, right on the line, right there. That's between the box and the curve. Now you see how it selected it? And it's asking you to enter the fillet radius. So just type in 0.25 and enter, and then enter again. Enter again because you already selected the edge right there. So I'm going to do that one more time. Start the fillet command, select that line between the box and the circle, type in 0.25 and enter, and then enter again. I'm going to orbit around to the other side and do the same thing. So fillet, like I said, sometimes when you click on an edge, it might not highlight it, but keep going. So start the fillet command, click on that line between the curve and the box, type in 0.25 and enter twice. Because when you enter, it says to select the edge, but you already selected it. So go ahead and pick enter, and you've got your fillet right there. All right, doing good, guys. I'll save the file just to make sure. Sometimes it's good to go up here and just pick save. You can just pick save right there. All right, we have a circle. We have a hole. It doesn't show up in the drawing over here, but it does. It is a hole right there. And it looks like it's 1 over, which is the midpoint, and it's 1 up. It's a diameter of 0.75. So if you think about this, if we draw a line from the bottom midpoint right here, and we draw a line that starts at the bottom midpoint and it goes up 1, then we can draw this circle. So let's do that. Start the line command, just regular 2D geometry line. Make sure that this surface is highlighted like a blue, and then click the midpoint of the bottom edge right there. Pull your mouse straight up and type in 1 and enter, and then enter again. See what it did was it just drew a line that was from the midpoint of this bottom edge up 1. Now we can draw our circle. Our circle is diameter 0.75. So let's go up to circle center diameter. Make sure that this surface is blue, highlighted. Click here at the end of this line and type in your 0.75, enter. All right, so just like we did during the introduction, we're drawing on the surface and we're kind of shaping the part. We can now use press pull. Go ahead and click on that little blue icon at the top left, press pull. Go inside the circle, not on the line, not on the circle, inside the circle and click. You see how I could pull it out, but I'm going to pull it back, all the way back, and click. And now you can kind of orbit over there and see there's a hole there all the way through. Now we do have to, delete that circle. Sometimes you can grab it. I'm going to go ahead and escape out of this. Sometimes you can come over here and it'll help you to grab it. Sometimes I'll go to 2D wireframe. See, if I go over here and I change from conceptual to 2D wireframe, I'm looking through the whole thing, and then I can just kind of grab this line and delete it. I'm just letting you know, the options. Also, what I seem to usually do is to put this into some kind of orbit that I can kind of see it, and grab onto it, and delete it. Whatever works. I don't like the idea myself of going back and forth from wireframe to conceptual. There are a couple of times when things are hidden within the conceptual view, and I have to kind of go back to 2D wireframe to get to it. Hey, this might be a good time to let people get caught up and also kind of take a look at all of these different visual styles. So this is conceptual and this is hidden. So hidden kind of hides all the, things that are behind it. You don't see any hidden lines or anything like that. Realistic is only used when we start to put material on this. If you do it right now, it's just like, it's either black or it's gray. But we do have shaded with edges and also sketchy. So sketchy is a way to make the drawing look like it's hand drawn. I do want to show you this because underneath all of these visual styles, because we do have wireframe and X-ray. X-ray is kind of a cool looking through it. But under Sketchy, if you go to Visual Styles Manager, which is at the bottom of this dropdown, you have ways of customizing these visual styles. And if you click on Sketchy right there, now you have kind of ways of changing it all these different ways. And I was looking for this down at the bottom, just kind of showing you that here you have line extensions, which is how far the corners extend from each other to make it look like it's sketched. And you have jitter. Jitter is how much you want it to like um look like a sketch. So if I put it on high, it's a lot different. You can see it's really sketchy. If I put it on low, see how it's got like a really low visual style. I'm going to go to medium again. I don't really want to change it. I just wanted to show you that each one of these visual styles has different settings. I'm going to actually close out of this visual style manager. There's a little X right there. All right. So we don't need any of these right now, but I mean, if you decide to, in fact, if you look at it, this project is hidden. So let's go ahead and click it on hidden. All right. So this is one of the few projects that I'm going to show you how to put dimensions on it. Dimensions. We are going to try to dimension most of our models, but sometimes we'll see. So we created the model. I picked something that's really basic that I use most of the time. When you dimension your models in this space, in this model space, you have to be on that surface in order for you to put the dimensions. So if you look at the handout right here, you see how the circle, all of these dimensions are on that surface. And like 2.5 and the 5 are both on that surface. The radius is on this curve, this like smile face kind of surface right there. And then the 4 and the 2 are up on the top surface. So to do that, we're going to pick up this XYZ UCS icon. UCS stands for User Coordinate System. So I'm going to click on this UCS icon so that you get the like 3 little blue balls there. And then I'm going to click on the origin, that box right there. See how I'm picking it up? Picking it up. And I'm going to put it on this surface. See how I went right to it? Now look what happens. If I go around all this, you see how it's like rotating all around and it's looking at all the different surfaces. And now when I come to this one, it's going to mess it up. So you have to pull it back off, pull it back on, off, on. And guys, the X is the direction of the text. So if I went all around like this and I went there, my text is going to go straight up. So I want to make sure that I go off that surface, back on it, and then click. And sometimes I like to orbit around to make sure that I'm on that surface. And you can even see that the grid is right on it too. If you want to work with the grid or have it still on. But the most important thing here is to make sure that the XY plane is on the surface we want to dimension and that X is in the direction of the text. Now I can go to annotate. So annotate is a tab up at the top. Because the home tab here doesn't have dimensions, we don't want to switch over to drafting and annotation. We can just click on annotate. And here are our dimensions that we've been working with. We'll click on linear under the annotate tab. And now that I'm on that surface, I'm going to click this top left corner and this bottom left corner and pull my mouse out and click. See, there's my 2.5. Of course, we have to change the precision, but I think you get the idea. Let's do the 5. So linear, the 2 bottom corners, pull your mouse down. Now this one goes down a little bit further because you can see we have a few other dimensions that we need to put in there. How are we doing? I hope everybody's good or at least understanding what I'm doing here. We need to change our precision. We know what to do. Let's type in D and enter. Everybody type in D and enter and pick the modify button. And really the only thing we're going to do here is go to the primary units tab. and change our precision to 0.00. Looks like everything else is good. 0.00 and pick OK and close. So this is where we start to like move this thing around. So click, everybody, go ahead and click on this XYZ. Now I have to say that sometimes it doesn't grab it, but I'm going to keep going. And then if anybody has a problem with it, I can show you, what to do. But it should, because that's a little glitch in the system. You should be able to click on it, click on this origin, this little blue box, and pick it up and put it over here on this side. So make sure that the X is going towards the right and the Y is going up. And I'm just going to click right there. You see how it puts it on that side? Now I can go back to linear and start to put these dimensions in. So I've got the one that's from the bottom corner to the center of the circle. I've got the one that's from the corner here to the center of the circle, but it's going down right there. And then I also can go back into linear and pick diameter and click on this the circle and pull my mouse out and click. I'm going to go ahead and pick this one up and put it up here. You can put it here or here, but guys, make sure that the X is going towards the right. If it's not, you can click on this little ball right there and kind of like rotate it, right? So that the X is in the direction of the text. I'm going to go back to linear. I'm going a little bit quicker just to finish these up. Now this too, you may have to get closer because you're going to be pulled all around here by those object snaps. Sometimes I'll just go way out here so that I don't get the object snaps for me to click. And then the last one is to click on the UCS icon and click here. And this is the hard one. You have to make sure that you're on this outside edge and X, Y are right. Like the X needs to be on the right, Y straight up. Now I can this is the important one to kind of orbit to make it look like the drawing itself. And then go up to radius and click on one of these arcs. 1.5, yes, right there. Radius. I'm going to click on the inside one. Oh, did I grab it? Oh, there it goes. And click there. So guys, save your file. Like you can type in UCS and enter. And you see what happens when you type in UCS and enter. The XYZ goes on your pointer. Now we just pressed enter in order to get it to go back to the world or go back to the default 0, 0 origin. But if you did want to, let's say, put it on the surface, let's just say, I can click here as the origin. And then if you watch your command line, what you're doing is you're going to click for the X axis. So I'm going to come over here and click here. Then I'm going to decide on where I want my Y axis. I'm pulling my mouse up and clicking, and that is another way of rotating that UCS icon instead of going to the surface and letting it read it by itself. All right, so let's type in UCS and enter twice. When you do that, you see how it pops to the world or origin. It goes to the bottom left corner here. But as you roll your wheel up, you see how it kind of popped over to the origin? So as long as it can go to the origin, this is by default, by the way, it will. So now we've been working in model space, and that's at the bottom left corner. You see the model tab. Many companies just stay here, but companies are, and I worked this way in industry for years, using this layout 1, layout 2, at the bottom left corner. So click on the layout 1 tab right there. And what you're looking at is it's always been called paper space. So you probably hear people call it paper space. It's where you could set up your paper. Some people put the paper in the model space, some in the paper space. Or now it's been called layouts for some time. So now we have layout 1, and you see how things change a little? In fact, I'm going to go full screen right for a minute until we put our title on so you can see it. When you're in the layout 1 view tab, notice that what you have is you have the sheet of paper that you can change. This is an 8.5 by 11. That's landscape by default. That has this hidden line right there that represents the margin for that printer that we're working with, which is the default one. And a box right there that is called a viewport. It's a hole in the paper to be able to see the model, see the things underneath it. It's kind of a layering system because you have the model space. It's kind of below the paper space. So now you see how the origin, the UCS icon is now a triangle at the bottom left corner, and it does say paper over there at the bottom right. Now, if you double click inside this box, you see how it kind of like puts you inside the hole? So you're in the paper, but you're kind of accessing the project that you're working on. So let's do one more thing. To go out of the hole, you can double click out in this gray space. You can also click on this word at the bottom right. You see where it says paper and model? Right down there where we were getting the grid. In fact, I can turn the grid off now. But you can click on the word model and paper right down there. You see how it also pulls you in and out of that box? I am going to turn off the grid. So when it says model, go ahead and click on this. So grid, it turns off. So double click out in space so that you're in the paper now. And you'll see the blue triangle at the bottom left corner. Now just click once on this like kind of hole that was created for you. And that will print. So for all the projects beyond this one, we're going to put that on a layer that doesn't print. For this project, let's just bring it out to just before the margin. Why don't we keep it? Yeah, we'll keep it just before the margin. So click inside the little grip there and stretch that hole out. See, the reason I'm doing this is some companies will bring in a border with a little title block, like information about the project. And they'll make that hole a part of the border. They'll stretch it right out to the box to make it part of the border because it does print. Now we can double click inside the box. You see how I can zoom in and out to kind of get over to where my drawing is. And honestly, guys, I don't think that inside this box, if you go to the southeast isometric, yeah, no. See how it's too much? I have to kind of like create my own view to make it look like that. Make it look sort of like that. So you hold your shift key and the wheel of your mouse. Let me just take a look and see if there's a scale involved in this. So you're inside the view. Down at the bottom right corner, you see all those little, the icon, you see all those little numbers down there? If you click on those numbers at the bottom right corner, you should get this menu. I'm just going to check. Yep, it looks like it is. It's a 1-to-1. So it's at a scale of 1-to-1. And I can set up the viewport to be that scale. But once I set the scale, I can't start zooming. In fact, you can actually lock it. There's a little lock icon down there too. But once you set the scale, you can't start, like you can pan, but you can't zoom or else you'll get out of scale. So I've got the scale set. I can kind of like put this drawing where I want to put it. Now, this is the important part. I want to double click out in the paper. Okay, we're going to put our title here, assignment 10, in the paper, not in the model. So just to show you, this is a sheet of paper. It's like you're drawing on the paper, right? But you're viewing the things that are in the model. So I'm going to be able to, and you know what this does is it helps us to not have to change the height of the text. Go over just a little bit more maybe. So in the paper, and you know you're in the paper because if you do zoom, you're not zooming and getting rid of that scale. You're in the paper if it's a blue triangle right there. I can go up to annotate, the annotate tab that we're still in, go to multi-line text, and then put it right here. I'm going to go ahead and click, pull my mouse over and click. You're not in the model, you're in the paper. Now you can type in assignment. We're in the layout space. See, if I click on model, I still have all my model objects, but the idea is that I'm like creating a hole in the paper to see my objects, to set the scale, to be able to draw on the paper. And as you probably already know, there are a lot of other different ways of doing this, but this is one way of doing it.